Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Off Axis Podcast, where we talk entertainment, acrobatics, business, entrepreneurship, fitness, and more. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys want to support, please share with your friends. Now, let's jump into the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Off Axis Podcast. Today, I am joined with Danielle Ricciardi. Danielle is an aerialist and performer in Las Vegas. Danielle, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Danielle, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Rindge, New Hampshire, which is a tiny town in the Northeast. I spent 23 years in that area before I began my travels.
Awesome. And what made you move to Las Vegas?
So before Vegas, I toured with Circus, and I was also living in Macau, China for 2 years on a resident show. And that show closed spontaneously with 12 days notice. So I was like, where should I go? What should I do? I actually moved to Montreal and spent about 3 years there. And then I ran out of money. And I was like,
No.
Where else is there a circus? And I was like, Vegas. So that's why I came here.
Cool. So you started doing aerialist stuff?
I actually got into aerial when I stopped gymnastics. So gymnastics was my very first passion. From 5 years old, I was like, I need to learn a cartwheel. And then I just knew that I wanted to do that with my life. Don't ask me how I knew, but I didn't actually take lessons until I was 15. I taught myself. I would go to the library, take out books, watch TV, film on VHS, and just study what they were doing. And finally, I was able to take real lessons and start coaching at the same time. So I did that for the rest of high school. And then, of course, it was like, now I have to go to college. What am I going to do? So I found a club to continue. And I competed with kids who were like 10 years younger. And when college ended, I was like, well, that's it. But I hadn't really reached my peak and I needed something else. And I always kind of laughed when people would say, oh, you should do Circus. And it never really crossed my mind when I was in school because I was pre-med. I wanted to be a physical therapist and my mind was just on academics. So when I graduated, I was like, well, I don't have money. I'm going to move back home. I'm going to coach, save up for grad school, whatever. And the gymnastics school where I was coaching, the one where I had trained when I was younger, they would bring in a flying trapeze group for like 2 weeks in the summer. And I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. I just have to. So in 2006, I started learning silks. And then from there, it was very fast. I didn't think that I would start performing right away. But in 2007, I joined Cirque.
Cirque du Soleil.
Mm-hmm.
Which show were you in?
First, I was with Kuza. And it wasn't aerial, so I was a little bit crushed, but I was like, it's a foot in the door. How do you say no to Cirque?
What were you doing?
I was a flyer. So I would jump from this, if you've seen the show, there's a tower, and I would jump from the tower to land, and they would toss me, and I would do flips. And honestly, it was scary. I wasn't a high-level gymnast. I wasn't a trampolinist, so I was like, but I have to do this. I was willing to do anything to be in the company at that point, young and just like, I'll do anything. So I was doing that. I learned sport acrobatic type stuff. I was doing a perch pole where the guy holds the pole, and I was doing crazy stuff up there. I was like,
that's like the most terrifying act, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
in my opinion,
what I was doing wasn't terribly hard, but looking back, I'm like, I did that. I don't think I would do that now.
Yeah.
But it was a cool experience. I will say, I remember, so first of all, the audition I did for them was a private one. And I didn't know how important that was. I had been scouted at a show in a tiny amusement park in New Hampshire that summer.
Yeah.
And so this was back in 2007 when, casting has evolved so much that it's almost easy now to submit and be hired. We had to film everything on a camcorder, put it on a DVD, and send it snail mail to Canada and wait for their response. So we're talking like a month before communication would come in. And they called me one day. I was like, oh, this could be good. And so I happened to be going to Canada for a gig with at the time, my acrobatic partner. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be up in Ottawa at this time. And they were like, well, do you want to come by for an audition? I was like, I just said yes. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but my friend was like, you have to. We have to make it work. So it was from that audition that I was hired. And within 2 weeks, they called me. But it was kind of like, I don't know. It was a weird dream come true. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
But I remember getting the call, and it was more exciting than getting my degree that I'd worked all those years for. I was like crying. My mom was happy. I was like, this is the best day of my life.
That's awesome. And how long did you work for them?
I was with that show for 2 years. I chose to leave because it was difficult. I had a difficult time with some of the castmates who were high level in their sport and had accolades, and they were world class. And I just felt, honestly, I felt like I wasn't good enough to be there at times. And I think that type of imposter syndrome follows a lot of us. No matter how good you are and how appropriate you are for the role, it follows people. And so it was very hard for me. I think if it were me now, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, hey, I earned this job. I'm here. But I wanted to do other things also. And I was like, I'm just going to go. During breaks, I would go to Montreal, train straps, learn straps. I was training during intermission before the show. And they were always like, they were like, what are you working for? I'm like, for myself. I just want to be better. I want to do other things. And I love this show, but there's so much else out there. So yeah, I chose to leave after 2 years.
Have you done any other shows with them?
Yes. So, in between that, I ended up doing a short stint in Berlin for a cabaret type show, which was super fun. But I ended up leaving that show after maybe 2 months because Cirque called me back. So they like to do this thing. If you're already under contract, they're not going to take you for another show. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if I wanted a position that was more aligned with me and, I wanted to do, I had to leave. So it was a big risk. I was like, I'm leaving. I could never be back with Cirque again, but it's a risk I was willing to take. So while I was in Germany, Cirque reached out and they wanted to present me for their show Zaya that was in Macau at the time. And they had duo straps number, and the main character was a small girl. And so there's not a lot of me. There's not a lot of aerialists who are really tiny. So my friend, who was also the one who brought me to the audition, we were working in Germany together, and he's like, you're going to get this for sure. So I was like, okay, we'll see. Sure enough, they hired me. I had to break it to the managers that I was going to be leaving Germany, and they weren't happy, but I was like, you know what? You're not offering me stability, so I need to go to a permanent contract.
Yeah.
So ended up going to Macau for 2 years.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. And was that the last time you've done a Cirque show?
Well, I worked on the cruise ship, so those were Cirque shows, but not long lasting.
Yeah. So what did you like about that last one that you did?
Zaya in China. I think for that contract, I grew the most as an artist on stage. As far as acrobatics, I didn't get to do a ton, but it was great. We actually were in a revamp phase. So when I arrived there, I was supposed to do straps, which I did for a little while. And then they announced that they were going to change the theme of the show, or they were going to change the show in such a way to make it more marketable to the Chinese audience. And in doing so, they wanted to make the main character not an acrobat. And I was like, I just moved across the world to do this. So I entertained the thought. I was like, well, do I leave? Like, what do I do? I stayed, and, I ended up doing some aerial anyway. But it was so much fun. I mean, I never realized that potential before. And I was a very, very shy child. I wouldn't talk to people. So to be on stage in front of hundreds of people every night, it was like, yeah, this is my element. I can do this.
Yeah. So was the theater pretty big there?
Massive.
It
was so big that I think one of the problems was the show didn't fill the stage in the theater. It was kind of like the O Theater.
Yeah, it's a big theater. Mm-hmm. But they have a big show. So, you kind of need those acts to take up the whole stage. Yep. Otherwise, it looks pretty empty. We did a show in Taipei Arena. I felt like the arena was just so big, like nothing could really fill it unless you had like motocross or something.
Yeah.
But it was a really empty feeling being on stage, that there's that many people out there. It's not like the same intimate feeling when you can like see people's reaction. Did you like the big theater at all, or would you prefer something smaller?
I honestly like both for different reasons. I feel like the performance style needs to be different too, and once you step in there, you understand. So on the ships, we had a really small theater. It was a dinner theater. Obviously, it's a boat. You don't have much space, much height, and I was this close to a lot of the audience. So even your facial expressions and how you emote is a little different.
Yeah.
I personally like both. I think it's harder to be up close because you have to be that much more engaging, and it's not necessarily about big tricks. It's bringing someone into your world. So
you have to be very expressive.
Yeah.
I personally like being up close a little bit more. You know, you just get that intimate feel, and after, you know, you give the person a high five that you were like looking at or something, you know, and it just feels more engaging. What other kind of stuff have you done as an acrobat performer?
So I also, after the cruise ship scenario, I worked with Dragon for 3 months over in Dubai in their water show called La Pearl. That was massive. I think that's the biggest production I've been in, and so many moving and scary parts. I mean, I don't like to scuba, and I had to learn, but I was like, I'm gonna do it. They ended up letting me go from it was a, what do you call it, probation period, to see if it was working for both of us, because again, they were in a transition period. They didn't know which acts they needed. They hired me to do duo straps and then decided not to have duo straps. So it was like, all right, after a show one night, they're like, we're not going to renew you, so bye.
No.
Yeah, this is a common theme in the arts that I think personally it needs to be addressed, but that's the way it is sometimes.
Yeah, the inconsistency in the circus world it's very prevalent. I'm not quite sure how to fix it, but we're working on it. Yeah. So what else have you been doing since you've moved to Las Vegas?
So, well, I moved here in 2015 in September, and then I basically was coaching and training a lot. Then I had the cruise ship, came back, got La Pearl, came back, and then shortly after was COVID. So that kind of put a stop to a lot of things. And then, so since then, I've just really been focusing on the coaching and doing any gig work that comes along. I still apply to a lot of things, but I think the challenge has been, and probably for a lot of artists when they start to transition out of just being an artist, realizing that they're more than just an acrobat and an artist, how much more we can do.
Yeah.
So I've really worked to cultivate a life that I enjoy and am proud of, aside from being an acrobat, because that, you know, there's going to be some day where I'm not going to be able to do it to this level. So I've found a way to enjoy teaching, and yeah, that's basically it. I'm working on making my own brand, and it's slow, but it's happening.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what kind of brand that is?
So basically I have the name. I know that it's obviously involving fitness and aerial, but it's called Flex RX, and my motto is essentially a prescription for your best self. And I want to not just talk about the physical, but all of the mental that goes into the consistency, the discipline, the physical fortitude that it requires. Because I'm not just about the physical skills, it's definitely about the health and what art brings to people, you know, the benefit of art to humanity, which I feel like in America that's a hard sell sometimes. If you go to other countries, you know, it's much more art based. So yeah, that's a bit about my upcoming brand.
Cool. So you talked about doing coaching and stuff on the side. Is that something that you're still doing?
Yes.
Is it at Circus Center, or do you do it privately?
No, I'm not at Circus Center, and I kind of like having a space where I don't associate with work to train myself. I coach gymnastics, so from recreational to competitive levels, any levels. I don't care. I work with them all, and I'm currently also working with a studio out. It's about 45 minutes from Reno, so once a month I'll go up and I work with their aerial team. And then we do private lessons, and I'm helping them just, deepen their program because they don't have a lot of coaches up that way.
Yeah.
And we have so many. So I've been doing that this year, and I would love to do more traveling for workshops to different studios because I personally feel like, I've coached gymnastics since I was 15, 16, and there's honestly not much growth in that.
Yeah.
And I feel very limited to one gym. So with aerial, I feel like I can reach so many more people, and it's not so exclusive. It's not selfish. I just want to help a lot of people. And I feel like circus is more that way than certain sports where it's like, you're our coach. You can't, there's that, what do you call it in the contract? The
non-compete.
The non-compete. There's that. So I'm like, why do you need dibs on me? I can help so many people, whether online, whether in person, but nobody should have ownership over your gifts, you know?
I agree. I go through that a lot with people trying to own like our acts and stuff. And, we had a recent show come up and they wanted to didn't want us to film anything. They wanted to like own our act. And I'm like, well, that's not how it works. We bring in an act and then you guys can sell it. And I didn't like that at all. But it seems like, a lot of the big companies do that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm. So you were with Cirque before they sold. Did you do shows after they sold?
I think so. I don't know their timeline quite, but I was just having this discussion with a close friend I met him when he was in House of Dancing Water across from Zaya in Macau. So he was there for the creation, and we talked about how we were in with Cirque and Dragon during the prime. It was like everything was getting better and better. It was, I think at that time, Guy was looking to go to outer space, and it was just, the company was doing better and better, and he still owned it. And the way they treated us too is like, you're like family on tour. The people with kids would bring their kids and they would go to school. They had school on site. It was everything. It was just like the best place to work. And unfortunately, I feel since it's been sold, it's kind of become, it's just very corporate.
Yeah.
Not to say the shows aren't amazing, but that feel of kind of the origins of what Guy La Liberté wanted for the company feels like it's been lost a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they're owned by a bank now, basically.
Oh, didn't know that.
I think, I believe it was like a Canadian bank.
Okay.
Bought it. And then I did some videos on it back then. I mean, of course, I don't know all of the ins and outs and stuff, but, during COVID, it got highlighted that they still owed like over $1 billion in debt. And but the problem with that is, when a bank owns a company, they probably also own 100 other companies, and they're taking the profits from that company and, distributing it amongst a bunch of other things that maybe not be doing as well as Cirque du Soleil would. So when you're, like every dollar that I make with off axis, I put it straight back into the company. So, in general, everyone's going to be treated better because, everyone to me is like family that works for me. Mm-hmm. But if it's a bank, obviously, you're more like just a
number.
A number. And, I personally never wanted to work for Cirque for that exact reason. I was like, no one even knows who you are on stage. Yeah. You're replaced overnight if you mouth off or if you just aren't performing. They'll just replace you like overnight. So I never saw that aspect that a lot of other people did. I was like, I don't want to work for them. I want to work for like a company that promotes me and, do those type of shows. And that's kind of what I tried to create with Off Axis. Do you know other people that are like still working there, and how are they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to disclose too much, but actually I told my friend to contact you. Hopefully he does, because he's writing a book about his whole experience with trying to get into Cirque and everything. And so I was like, that would be a great promotion for your book once you release it via Zoom or whatever. But I hear a lot of things, and I don't want to say too much, but yeah. I will say though, I mean, it's kind of like any situation where I do owe them everything,
of course,
for my career thus far. And even the things that we think are negative experiences, it shapes you. It gives you information on how to proceed and do better. And I can't say that I didn't benefit, because clearly I did.
Yeah.
Nothing is perfect, and they're also taking risks. I realize that.
Of course.
It's no different than us. You have to try things. They fail. There were so many shows I think they released and then they closed, tried to reopen. It was like, you got to try different markets.
Yeah.
That's being an entrepreneur. So it's balancing that artist versus business side, which is, I find difficult, because I'm like, but no, I want to be artistic and I want to do what I love. But also, you got to sell yourself. You got to market yourself. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to be clear. Like, I would love to work for Cirque du Soleil, because coming in and just training and only focusing on like your art and your performance and stuff, that seems really cool to me. Unfortunately, I started my company. I was like, well, I don't want to go work for someone else at this point. But it is a really cool aspect that you can just fully focus on that. And I bet, you would evolve levels and levels by working for them. You learn so much about the world of circus.
Yeah, I would say, honestly, I entered at 23. I think I had my 24th birthday at the headquarters, but that was definitely what I wanted. I was like, I can't wait to just train all day. And that's what I did. I trained all day. I performed. I was like, this is the dream life. Like, what more could I want? And then you meet people who are, so I remember watching gymnastics on TV, and you have idols. It's like, oh, that person. And then down the line, you're on stage with them. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is an honor. And then your coaches are also super high level, award-winning coaches that you're learning from. It's a privilege to follow your dream. Not everyone has that. So I've always thought about that when I'm pursuing things. Like, yeah, this is my choice. I could abandon this and go get a desk job and just be stable. But if you have the chance, like we do in America, to do that, it's kind of a waste to not at least try. You know?
It is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool opportunity. It's like kind of the only like professional sports team that is in circus, like they have trainers, and there's, I don't know, because I've never been there, but I hear there's like massages and stuff that you can get to work there. So they do make it as like optimal as possible to perform there. What other like gigs have you done that maybe you enjoyed or didn't enjoy? Anything recent?
Gosh, recent.
Did you do anything on New Year's?
I just did. Actually.
Oh, did you?
I just did a gig on New Year's. We went out to outside of Yosemite, which I had never been there.
Yosemite.
Yeah.
Way up there, California.
Yeah. So it was a long drive. It was fun because, the Vegas audience has become very used to what they're seeing. So I don't know if you've noticed this when you perform here, but sometimes it's like they see it every night. It's like, oh, another acrobat bending in half. You're like, if you go to some small town like where I was raised, if I go home and I'm stretching or doing a handstand in the gym, it's kind of uncomfortable because everyone's like, that's crazy. And I'm like, this is like literally, I can do so much stuff in the LVAC and nobody bats an eye because they're like, oh, just another acrobat.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a comforting feeling to Vegas because you don't feel like you stand out too much. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I wish the audiences would just appreciate everything that goes into this.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
I think sometimes it's a little overwhelming. I think the setting and the mood and how you like create that environment for the audience matters a lot. I think of that as from a producer perspective, like when does the music come on? How does the lighting look? Like, how do I get people to completely engage with all of their thoughts and only think about what's going on stage? And like, fortunately for us, it's like really easy as an acrobat because they're always looking like this guy's gonna fall or this guy's gonna land on his head or something.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's what people want to see. We get that all the time. They're like, we want to see you guys fall. Someone fall.
Actually, they would script falls or near falls in Kuza just to get the audience reaction because people love when someone messes up and then they make it. That's just a human nature. It's like, oh, that is really hard. I can tell because they failed. But sometimes when you're doing these crazy things on straps or whatever, and it looks effortless, and people are just like, they're in awe, but they don't even realize how hard it is to hang upside down, and so it's not relatable. But yeah, you're probably right. And also with the way that social media is now and everything, it's like TikTok generation. Things have to be. I feel like we have to have different types of entertainment.
Yeah, we need like 90
moving.
second reels.
I don't know. 90-second acts. Let's go.
Yeah, basically, you know, people used to watch videos and there would be like a whole intro and
Yeah.
people would watch like a 10-15 minute video, no problem. And now it's like everyone's shortened up to 30 seconds.
It's crazy.
So maybe that's what we need to do is just make a bunch of 30-second acts.
I mean, if you have, I haven't seen it, but the Bob Marley Hope Road, I want to see it. I've heard great things, but they have the different rooms and you just go travel room to room.
Yeah.
Immersive. That's kind of the same thing. So you can stay there how long you want, but you could just walk through.
Yeah.
Spend 90 seconds there. Go, go, go.
Yeah. I had Dave on yesterday and we were talking about, he was doing a show like that where they would go to one spot, see something for like 5-10 minutes, move to the next spot. And I think that's kind of the direction that we're going to head to is just a bunch of little immersive experiences versus one long show.
Could work.
It could work. So as a veteran acrobat, what are some things that you would tell yourself when you're first getting started? If you could go back in time.
That's a great question.
I always tell myself like I would if I would go back, I would learn more skills around the arts, like whether it was choreographing or videography, just other things in the business. That way, if you're on a gig or something, you have more to offer and you can like make extra money on the side, you know. And also if you get hurt, which like knock on wood, I really haven't too much, like there's things that you can fall back on. Like the worst thing for me is to see people who are my friends get injured and they have no backup plan.
Yeah.
And no insurance and like.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I actually do have an answer for this because now that I'm mentoring younger artists and the industry has changed. It really has evolved from what it used to be where it's like if you're an aerialist, you're an aerialist. That's what they want you to do. I would definitely have learned how to dance. Not that I can't dance, but pick up choreography, go to dance classes. I would have chosen that younger prep, maybe even instead of gymnastics. I just didn't really have that availability, but I tell the girls who I work with, I'm like, be proficient in dance. And if you can also do aerial, you're going to be so marketable because they want people who can do everything. And if you can tumble, so if you can do those three, it's like it's the power couple.
Yeah.
Dance, floor movement, tumbling, and aerial, or anything that's like aerial. You're just unstoppable because they want you to do everything now. It's cheaper for them, you know, and I understand. So as far as the physical goes, that would be it. For education, I think I would have studied business more. I studied exercise science, which, to be honest, that's beneficial because it helps me in every way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could still study business. It's not a problem. I just wish I had more business and marketing knowledge previous to my performing career. I guess the only thing there is that I started with Circus. So the thing is, when you're starting with a company like that, they do everything for you.
Yeah.
It was so easy. Once I left, I was like, I have to figure this out on my own. I have to book gigs. I've not been that great at booking gigs, to be honest, because I don't know how to sell myself in that way.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say, hey, I'm the one you want to choose, not the 6 foot leggy one. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to feel like you're not coming across as arrogant because I want to, I feel like I'm pretty humble. I'm realistic with my ability, so I'm going to be honest with people. I'm not going to say, well, I can do this when I do a back handspring. I don't tumble, but I can do the basics. Mm-hmm. I think some people kind of elaborate on what they can do, and I'm not about that.
Yeah.
I'd rather pleasantly surprise you than disappoint.
Yeah. Well, I think the business aspect of Circus is something that a lot of artists miss out on because it's a whole nother, like, it's literally half of your business. Because if you are an artist and you're not on a W-2 contract, even if you are, you still, to a degree, have to be selling yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of the business, marketing, where to put your reels and stuff so people see you. If you don't have like a social media profile, it might be hard to find you. So, like reaching out, like there's seasons where you need to go out and just remind people that you exist.
Yeah.
A lot of performers, they'll reach out to me like every once in a while and just, hey, just letting you know that I exist and like if you need
Still
any.
Here.
And I'm like, oh yeah, wait, we do have a show coming up,
Yeah.
and then that's how you stay on top of people's minds because, from a producer's standpoint, I have like so many other things on my mind. Like it's hard to just, I don't have, unfortunately, like a database on top of my head, like, oh, this person can go here. And a lot of times I just forget, like, oh yeah, that guy worked for us before or something. We can use this. So yeah, just going through and just sending a email to every producer, like, hey, if you have any shows this year, I would love to work for you. That, or, creating your own gigs. And that's something like that's an art that I've been working on mastering. It's like, how do I book us better and more often? And, I'm really starting to get the hang of it. And I'm realizing it's like going to conferences and literally running ads and just doing all kinds of stuff to make sure that we're constantly booked. I actually spend like probably 90% of my time just on booking more shows. I
believe it. Because just applying for stuff alone, I tell people, I'm like, it's its whole other part-time job. Because every submission, I feel especially as an aerialist, they want to see a different demo, because it might be for silks, it might be for hoop, they may want to see everything. I'm like, I have so many demos. Can one just be enough? But no, it's work all the time. And I always tell people, like, your demo reel is like the most important thing. And I actually spend probably the most amount of money and time on our demo reel, and I'm constantly updating. Like every time we have like a new show or something, I'm like, oh, we gotta throw this in there, that might spark their interest or something, or another big name show, like, oh, that'll like get them to want to book us. So I'm always spending a lot of time on our demo reel, and you got to make it catchy right from the beginning. Like the beginning of our demo reel, I have a guy on a pogo stick. He does a front flip over me, and there's like 3 different flips going on all in the background to really catch their attention. Because if you're casting for a show, you're probably looking through 10 to 20 different reels. And at least. And a lot of people will put the same trick with like another half twist or something. And it's kind of like, well, why didn't you just put the bigger trick in there? Like, why is there all this other stuff? Like, show what you have done, all the big tricks and stuff, but don't try to make it as short and sweet as possible. Like, if 60 seconds is enough. But I think every performer, you should have a designated reel with each of the disciplines you do. And then you should have a broad reel that kind of shows all the different stuff you do. And that's the one that you send to everyone, like, hey, this is all the things that I can do. And if they say, oh, can you send me more of this? You already have something ready to go. Right. So, like, kind of niche down on that one thing after they're interested in it. And then, you're more likely to get the job than someone who doesn't have a reel, which nowadays it's really common. Like, no one has reels. I find that so weird.
I think it's weird too. And
pull something off your Instagram. Doesn't even have to be an official reel. It could just be a clip. Yeah. That's it.
A lot of people don't film themselves, and they expect to get a job, Yeah. But yeah, and then on top of that, not having something that's highly edited. Whenever people send me stuff that's like super highly edited, and like they cut off a trick like right before they're about to land, and they put another thing in, and I'm like, I think I know what you did there. I think you didn't land that properly, and then you're putting something else in. So that's another, like, you don't want to get too crazy with your reel to where it's like highly edited. Ideally, the best thing you could show is just like, here's a clip of a performance that we did. So on our website, I just have like a giant section that has all the different shows that we've done. So that way a producer can watch the whole thing front to back. And then also it sparks ideas for them. Like, oh, we can do something like this.
Yeah, I think definitely for acrobatics, I've thought about this extensively, if you can't tell, and listened to other podcasts, other casting companies talk about this. It is a bit different for aerial, because I feel like it's more like dance, where you want to see a sequence. So yeah, you can do a trick, but how does your performance look? Is there a flow? Like, can you tell that you're engaging? Because I don't care if you can do a back planche on straps. Do I want to see the rest of the act? Is your movement style engaging enough, or is it fluid? Those are the things that are important to me. So I guess there's kind of have your mixed demo, and then have something. I'll often send something where it's like, here's a 2-minute sequence of something, so you can see my movement quality, which is super important. Yeah. But it's a whole game. And then I'm like, do you want professional video? Do you want a performance reel? Do you want a training reel? There's so many different options, and I think there's a lack of clarity there, to be honest. And it is much different than when I started. So having to keep up with how technology has changed. Yeah. It's just, staying on top of that is hard.
Yeah, one thing that I also did, not that we're perfect or anything, but is put in myself in the videos. So that way it's not just like a bunch of humans flipping around all over the place, like, because anyone can send in that. So I noticed that, anytime I send a reel in, I'm also sending like a cold email pitch with all the different things that we do. So I actually just put myself, green screen myself into the video and I actually talk about it the whole entire time. So it adds more of a personal touch. Because in the last couple of years, I've noticed it's really like your personality that's selling. People will work with someone who's not as skilled if they like them as a person. And it's kind of, it's about who you know, unfortunately. Yeah. So the more people you know and the more people that like you, the more people are going to want to work with you long term.
I was going to ask you actually that. I'm glad you reminded. But if you had some videos and someone had amazing skills and you could clearly see that, if there was someone who had, a lot of experience, and then there's someone who you heard about reputation wise and they're like, oh yeah, they're amazing to work with. They're, not dramatic. They just chill. They go with the flow. They deliver they're on time. Who are you going to choose? I already know your answer.
Probably the person that's, on time and stuff.
Yeah.
It depends on the type of gig though.
Right.
So like if it's a short-term gig that's one-off or something, and maybe it's not necessarily it depends on the client too, because as an extreme sports show basically is what we are. A lot of my guys are a little crazy. Some of them can have attitudes. Some of them might be slightly irresponsible, and some of them, might smoke weed or something that I might not want around certain clients. But if I'm like, oh, this is like a fair client or something, they're more likely to be like okay with something like that. Versus if it's like a corporate business show for like a financial firm, I'm probably going to go with like the more responsible people. Yeah. Or like in that specific show that we did with that financial firm, I put like the people who were, not to call them out, but like slightly, I might have more of a problem with them, but they're the better performers. But they might, scream an F word or something. Like I had those people on the show that I was at. And then all of the people that I like didn't really have to worry about that were like super responsible. I'm like, they're not going to do anything.
Wait, you were on my show. What are you saying?
I'm talking about my guys.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I get it. Just a little less civilized, but it doesn't mean they're bad humans.
Yeah, it's just like, or if we've had issues with them in the past, a lot of this stuff, it's almost never, none of the issues ever happen on stage. It's after the show is over or, when we're at the hotel or or just anytime around a client. Like when a client comes around, I'm like, guys, best behavior right now. The client's walking over right now.
It's like the teacher's in the room,
Yeah. I mean, this is the person that gives you the bill or the check at the end of the day and is paying for everyone to have a job for the week. So you have to make sure that they like you.
Right.
Because if they don't, there's a lot of shows, especially in like the fair world, they don't get repeat books and stuff because, they're irresponsible or, I've heard every horror story you can possibly imagine from my clients. And then we come in there like, you guys were like a breath of fresh air. Like everyone was like super responsible and nice.
That's
like
awesome.
The whole team loved you guys. But that's one thing you never want to short out on is acrobats, because the good ones they're very good.
Right.
And they're responsible. You don't have to worry about them. But if you're kind of at that like level where you probably, I always say we have like a $200 a day cutoff for like long-term shows. I would never pay anyone less than $200 because I believe in my heart that the people that would take those shows, you probably don't want on set usually because, there's probably a reason why they're taking a rate like that.
Right. Yeah. What is your thought? So this is on my mind a lot lately, and I've personally experienced this, and I find it becoming an issue more and more, but sometimes artists get blacklisted or called a problem when they bring safety concerns to the forefront. And in my opinion, that's not being a problem, but it just seems more prevalent now, and it bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't know how we address this, but I keep reading things. There's a girl on Instagram, I've been following her story. Last January, she got injured at a theater company, and they basically did her dirty and didn't help. She had a serious fall, it's horrible. Like, she can't even sue them. And, you know,
well, anyone could sue anyone.
Yeah, I don't know what the issue was, but I talked with her extensively. And it's just silly because I've been in that situation where you really have a safety concern and then you're made to feel difficult. And they're like, oh, we could get anyone here to do this right now. And I'm like, yeah, but it takes one time being negligent, and it's no amount of money. I will tell this to everybody. No amount of money is worth putting yourself in that situation. It's worth your life. It's worth your livelihood. It's like, okay, at the end of the day, it's $1,000 or give or take, but is that worth the rest of your life? It's not. And I think there comes a time with newer artists where they feel like they have to do it, or they're like, I need this money right now.
Yeah.
Or they're taking lower gigs and that aren't safe. And it's just kind of setting a really bad precedent. And rates is a whole other issue that I want to talk about. But the safety one is a big deal because I even dealt with that in Cirque.
Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I have one rule that I tell everyone, and I reiterate this over and over. Number one rule is no falling. If you think you're going to get hurt, don't do it. Because for me, like, my worst nightmare is someone getting like severely hurt on one of our sets.
Right.
And we've had a really good track record of people not getting hurt because, in my opinion, you know, if you do an extra flip or something, you're much more likely of getting hurt. But to the audience, I don't think they're really even going to notice. You know, if you do a triple backflip, it's probably cooler if you do a double backflip completely laid out or something. And it's probably a lot easier for you. And when it comes to the safety stuff, we have had people that, you know, in general kind of complain a little bit about certain things. And I just always ask what's your suggestion? I think, but we are also a completely self-contained show.
Yeah.
Like, if something is wrong, I probably built that and I'll probably just fix it real quick.
Right.
But, you know, if you get onto a bigger set, you know, a lot of theater shows and other producers and stuff, they actually don't own any of their own equipment and they're just bringing stuff in. Or, you know, I'm always like safety man because that's my worst nightmare is someone getting hurt. And like, we showed up to a show and they wanted to build our tramp wall. And I always say, no, I don't want you guys to build our tramp wall. Like, there's just way too many potential issues with building a 16-foot tall wall. And we get there and they didn't put any support beams. And I'm like, guys, look, my guys are literally walking around up there and you can see the wood flexing. Oh. Now imagine when they actually go to land, like they're going to go straight through it. So I don't know. That's, for me, we're also a smaller company and like pretty self-contained. Like, I always self-contained. Like, we're doing the Super Bowl this year. Oh, they wanted to build the wall. Nice. And I was like, guys, can we just like let me do everything? Because I know it's going to work and I know we'll be fine. And I don't want to show up somewhere and it's like, you guys built this how? And then we had to actually get like a structural engineer to go and stamp my design, and I had to send them like this whole entire thing down to the inch. So I learned a lot about that. But that's California. It's in San Francisco this year. So.
Oh, cool. So cool.
They're like super concerned about any kind of safety stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. It's a 14-foot tall wall basically that people are jumping off and almost landing on their heads.
I mean, I'd rather them be more concerned than not. Nothing's worse than, I mean, aerial is definitely concerned because you're like, who's doing my rigging? How is it rigged? There's just so many concerns. And, you know, you see professionals have accidents. It's not about that. And I don't know.
I think it's definitely more prevalent in the aerial world. Like, aerial scares the shit out of me. And in general, I don't want anything to do with it because, like, I don't understand all of that stuff. Right. You know, on that gig, I outsourced everything, and I just was there just to make sure it looked good. But I don't want to be in charge of the aerial stuff. I don't know all about that stuff, and I've never set it up in somewhere. So we hired Mason, who literally does it like every single day in these big theaters and stuff. So, and there's even then, I was still very concerned about it. Everything went perfect. Yeah. But I think it went perfect, right?
Yeah, it went great, actually.
I mean, we're probably on set for quite a while, and there's probably a lot more work. But anytime you do a corporate show, there's always way more work up front than you think there's going to be. That's
exactly why I set my rates a certain way, because I had one recently, and they asked my rate for a certain amount of work. And I was like, it was kind of similar to what we did for you guys. And I was like, I just know they want a choreographed act. They want ambient sets. I'm like, I know how much work is going to go into this outside of the actual gig day. And then sure enough, in the end, I was like, that was so much work. I'm glad I asked for what I asked for. And I think a lot of newer artists don't realize that it's like, okay, studio fees, you're going and you're spending hours trying to work with a group because it's 4 people trying to synchronize. It's way harder. It's not just showing up and doing your number.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that day you're there super early, you're leaving super late. So yeah, there's definitely a bare minimum standard for those type of things.
Yeah.
But
well, I think I think about this a lot and like how we can get more money for the acrobats and performers. And in my opinion, it would be for everyone to know more about the business world, because a lot of the times on the, let's say we're doing a corporate event for just some random place. I don't even want to name anything. Let's say Tesla, just a company that I've never worked for or anything.
Wealthy company.
Let's say Tesla's going to put on a show. They're going to hire an event company who's going to then hire a production company, who's then going to hire a talent agency, who then will possibly hire someone like me, or they might hire someone like you. But if they hire someone like me, now we have 4 hands in the pie. So you're charging, I don't know, $2,000 or something like that. And then they're charging $4,000, and they're charging $6,000. Everyone's making a cut off of you being there. The higher you get in, the more likely you are to get a higher pay rate. You know, on that one show that we were doing, we were more direct to the client than, for example, like this other show we're doing at the Super Bowl. There's like 5 hands in the pie, and it's like impossible for me to even, like we're getting a decent rate,
right?
But it's not like what I think we should be getting paid, and that's because there's a whole bunch of different hands in the pie. Yeah. You know, and most shows are like that. There's just a lot of people with like, you know, Facebook friends. They're like, oh, let me get myself like snug into this little puzzle so that way I can make a couple $1,000s off of this. Yeah. You know, and then you just have, then there's like a barrier of communication. And then, you know, when you show up, there's like so many things that didn't get communicated between this person who doesn't actually understand what they're booking. You know, that's why I don't allow people to white label our show. We don't give out footage to anyone at all. And I think a lot of people have, you know, an aerialist on their website or something like that. But if you were the aerialist that's on their website, they're not like contracted to book you. No. Anyone could book. They could book anyone. And if you say no to that rate, but your footage is what booked it, well, then you just got someone else booked, and then they're going to go down the line. So I think, you know, what we have is like a exclusive agent, and in my contract with them, they can't offer any acts that are like ours, you know, no trample, no BMX, none of that stuff. And it's a really good working relationship, you know, because if we don't want to take a certain rate, well, then they're shit out of luck, you know. But I think, especially in Las Vegas for the corporate world, there's just so many talent companies, and it's like they're not even necessarily, a lot of them don't even have real business licenses or insurance or, you know.
Right. I've definitely been paid via Zelle before and like not done a 1099. I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm not claiming this. Don't listen to that. But yeah, sometimes it's like, are you legit? I mean, I don't know. But I personally feel like, and I know this is, a lot of people don't agree, but we're at a point where I feel like the circus world needs some sort of a union. Stunts have it, actors have it, and it just keeps up with inflation. And then if there's a minimum standard, which I believe, I don't care if you are a new artist, it's kind of like entry-level jobs. Minimum 20 an hour or whatever for like a decent job, you should be at least getting that. And then the more experience and skills you have to offer, you should get more. But there's like, it's so lowball now where people are making less on cruise ships than I made 11 years ago. Yeah. When I've seen the rates, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's double to live now. It makes 0 sense. Just because there's more of a supply, like supply demand economics, it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be okay. And yeah, so people don't love unions, but there needs to be some sort of quality control, because that also guarantees that you're booking a good artist.
Yeah. I agree there should be a union, and like from like I'm a straight up capitalist person. A lot of people would be against that, but I want there to be like a standard rate to where I know I can like push these people as like they're great performers. there was something that happened recently, and we were supposed to book a show. They used our footage to kind of get our act in there. And then, at the last, like, they were already pitching us they were already going to pay us a lot lower than I would normally take from our acrobats. It was like bare minimum. And then, we get the contract and it has an extra 4 days in there of us. And I'm like,
oh my goodness,
guys, what is this? We can't just show up an extra 4 days. Like, what am I supposed to tell these guys? Like, it makes me look bad. Me now having to go tell my performers, hey, we actually have to be there 4 days earlier, even if it's for rehearsal.
Still a per diem. You need like a day rate.
They were like stuck like, no, this is all we can pay you guys. And I was like, what other value can we provide you guys? Can we like drive up our own equipment? Can we drive your equipment? We already have a trailer. Like, what are the things we can do? And, they were set on us being paid for this certain rate. I was just like already at the point where I didn't like the way this thing was going. You don't just add on an extra 3 to 4 days without anyone getting paid. And I pulled my contract. I was like, never mind, we're not going to sign. And unfortunately for my guys who thought that they were going to have a show for the last month, they lost work also.
Yeah.
And then some of my other guys went and took it for that same exact rate with the extra 4 days for less pay than my guys were initially going to get. So it's like, well, now they're
Are they
getting
allowed
paid.
to do that though? Isn't that against your contract?
No,
though?
it's not. No, because everyone's like their own contractor.
Oh.
But it's like, all right, now we have a bunch of guys making $120 a day. Like, look what that does for the industry. And then that same person, these guys are going to accept this rate, so we can do this next year.
Yep.
And now they have the footage from that act, like, oh, we can sell this, and we'll probably, like, I don't know. I'm like, why do I even like try to stand up for the performers at this point? Because there's always going to be someone who's going to take it for cheaper.
That is the issue, and exactly why I think there needs to be some sort of a union or just like this. You don't accept for less than this for this amount of work. If it's a showcase or something where you're like, I just want to show my art, that's different. But if you're hired to do a job, you don't go to a doctor and not pay them for a consultation. It's not negotiable. It's like, this is the rate. That's it. Why do we have to negotiate our worth? It's just I take a huge issue with that. And I even took a job, just a recent one. I filled in for someone who backed out and she had already negotiated the rate. I would have asked way more, but I was like, you know what? It's still okay. I don't love it, but it wasn't insulting. It was just like, this needs to be more, and whoever negotiated this isn't aware or just thinks that how it should be. And that's part of the problem, is like, they're not educated enough. And I personally want to make a reel or something where I list out why exactly we're charging that. And it goes, compare it to education. How many years, 20 something years spent doing this? That's more than a PhD.
Yeah.
All of these things count for that. The time, the hours you're spending in training in the gym, I'm like, you just add it up. If you give yourself a per hour rate, by the end of, from the start of preparing to the end of this gig, what is it? And sometimes I've broken it down. I'm like, that's like not even 20 an hour. So it's not enough. And people don't, for whatever reason, don't think of it in that way. They're like, oh, I'm making $1,000. Cool. But what's your per day rate?
Yeah.
You could be doing other things. I could be doing other things and other jobs.
Yeah.
So
opportunity cost.
Exactly.
That's what I think of our opportunity cost. That's a real factor in, people, sometimes they'll ask us for a rate and then we won't hear back from them for like 2-3 months. And then they'll be like, hey, we're still like in this. And I'm like, okay, I know, but our rate has gone up now. And they're like, what? Like, well, it's because, if we book this show now, like, we're already double booked during this time period, so we might get booked somewhere else too. We can't just give you that same rate,
It's the rush booking. That's what I said to another friend. I was like, it's kind of like you're Amazon priming or you're doing rush delivery. It's gonna cost more. It's the same for us and our time and what you're having to spend. It takes a lot more effort to try and access this particular prop. Oh, you want red silks? I don't have red silks. Are you going to buy them? There's so much running around that, there's an extra rush fee. I feel like these things should be implemented and it shouldn't even be a question.
Yeah.
If you want me to deliver something in 2 days and just like procure it, then I'm a magician.
Yeah. Or, you could self-contain. That's why I just try to keep all the factors like in-house as much as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. Like every bit of equipment that we offer in a show, we own all of that. Fortunately, we own all the rigging and stuff now from that one show. So
yeah.
We can
that's
keep
awesome.
the rigging in-house now too as well.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing is like, people do like verbal commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is also a big scam. And I don't know if producers do it on purpose or if they do it just negligently. Like they'll get you to verbally commit to something and then they'll offer you like a shittier rate later. That was the situation that we had where we agreed on a certain rate on a certain amount of days. And then here's an extra 3-4 days. And I'm like, dude, we can't do it for that rate now.
Yeah, I had an issue over a year ago now, but I'll even say the name because everyone needs to know. Vertical Show. I don't know if you remember that whole debacle. I exposed her online because we weren't paid. So we all committed to the show. It was like auditions. The show's called
Vertical Show?
Vertical Show. It was here in Vegas for about a week. Actually, no, it was about a month. But the first week we did 5 days straight. So the rate was already low. And I was like, the only reason I'm doing it is because I like where she's the idea. And it's a new project. It's consistent. And she said once it's more popular and we're making more sales, then the rates will increase. And so I believed her. I was like, oh, why would she lie? Why would she lie? So we get through the end of the first week, which was hell, by the way. Like it was so hard, but we were like, we're in it now. By the way, I was also dropped on my head in the straps because we were like, God. Yeah, it was a long story, but I was like, this will never happen again. But we didn't have contracts till the end of that week. And then I get the contract. I didn't sign mine because I was like, I don't like where this is going. And then she was like, so we didn't make enough sales to pay everyone. And I was like, why are you basing your payment for the artist on the sales? You should already have money to cover the cost, whether you make sales or not. Mm-hmm. That's a really bad business. So on her part. But I was calling it vertical scam because we just weren't getting paid. And I think it took us 5 months to get paid, but with many threats. And I was the first one I was like exposing it online. I'm like, don't work for her. I had people up in Canada who she was trying to recruit and like run other shows to pay ours. It was like what do you call that scheme?
Pyramid scheme.
Yeah. Not a pyramid scheme. There's a term for it.
Multi-level marketing?
No. Anyway, so.
A scam.
Yeah, it was a scam. And so I had people back out. They were like, thanks for bringing this to awareness. Other people took it knowingly. And I'm like, I don't know if they're going to get paid. But one of the young artists, I thanked him because he's probably 20. And he was like, it's okay. Even if we get paid or not, he said, I can't support someone who treats artists this way. And I was like, you, my friend, will go far because that's the exact attitude you need to have. But there are fellow artists in this community who have later taken work with her. And now I refuse to send them castings that I see. If it fits there. I'm like, I can't because you are just an opportunist. Yeah. You're not riding for the rest of us. Like I get it, you got to ride for yourself, but if it's one person out of however many can give you a job and you're going to support them after what they did, that's a no for me. I'm big on integrity and that's just not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a union would help everyone out. I don't know how to start one of those. I don't think I'm the person to start it because I own a business, but I think, for me offering to the clients, like if I know that no one's going to accept $100 day rate, like it's easier for me to gauge my pricing and how much I should charge for something. Right. If I know like, okay, everyone's going to make we like to start at like $250 for a veteran acrobat or something like that. Mm-hmm. $250 is the minimum that we're going to pay for someone.
For like a long-term show.
Yeah. And then if you're like a new person, $200 a day, I think for a long-term contract, not like a short-term gig. Long-term contract, I think, the minimum someone should be paid is $200.
Yeah.
But I can't factor in, if I'm trying to get a show and one person is charging half as much as me, but they're also paying that the performers like $120 a day, then it's how am I supposed to figure out what pricing?
Right.
Like it's just like a free-for-all at this point. And then some people, they'll get a trampball show and it'll be the exact same performers that I was going to offer, but now those guys are just making a way lower rate.
Yeah. I mean, the benefit you do have is there's no other company really like yours. There's a lot of... There are?
There's a few. There's only like Chris Purdy, and Chris does a good job at charging good prices, I believe. True. But there's other companies like... I don't want to call them out, but there's a lot of people that don't own their own equipment. That's the problem, is people that don't own their own equipment who are selling a show like ours because they're trying to profit off of stuff that they don't actually own. And then they also, there's so much overhead for them. They have to get a truck and a trailer and a trampoline, which costs a lot more than people would ever expect a trampoline to cost, then all their own equipment and stuff. So, like, in general, there's more profit when we do a tramp ball show than when someone else does, because I own all my equipment. It's all paid for. And we took a very long-term approach. And someone else who wants to just rent a trampoline wall for a day, like, there's going to be, like, no money at the end of the day for the performers.
Right. And you also don't know where that equipment is coming from. I mean, you do, but it's like, the safety of your structure and everything. So there's security in that.
Yeah.
But I really want to make ground props that I can do aerial on. And I'm not talking the X-pole, like the lollipop. There's other ideas I have, but it's like, I need an initial investment to do all these things.
Oh, yeah. But that's a whole other.
But it's easier to sell. I'm noticing aerial is really hard to book because people don't want to do it anymore because of the liability and the insurance, and it's just harder. They have to hire a rigger. They have to jump through hoops, and it's like, I have a ground prop that I can just bring in and set up, and it's so much easier. So I'm like, that's the way to go.
Yeah. The financial stuff is crazy. We took out every single year that we've been in business. I've taken out another personal loan that gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And it's just because we could just keep putting all our money back into it. But that's the only way to do it. If I wanted Off Axis to be profitable in the first year, it would have been, I thought it would be. Of course, that was my, like, optimistic, stupid.
It's better that you go in with that optimism and then realize, I was optimistic, because it has worked out long term. But I think if we don't have that blind optimism, sometimes it's like you'll never start.
Yeah.
It's kind of, if I look back to when I was, I wasn't a good gymnast or acrobat, but I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then what is funny too, I'm like, I got booked and hired when I wasn't that good in my mind now. And now I'm probably the best I've ever been. It's very hard to work. So that's kind of that can be difficult, because you're like, then you realize that it's not all about talent. It's not all about experience. It's just sometimes what they need.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything about who you are as an artist, but I think it kind of changes. I do this for me now as well, and I'm going to do it because I like making art, whether I'm booked or not. So there's that resolve, but it can be kind of hard when you're like, I just want to create. I want to not be so in my masculine. Like, I don't want to sell. It's like sometimes I just want to do it and, relax about it.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for coming on. This was a really good, interesting podcast. Hopefully we can get everyone paid some more and maybe start a union.
Yeah.
Where can everyone find you at?
So you can find me on Instagram at strappiness, like happiness. Even though I do a lot more than straps, it was just catchy. And I do have a YouTube. I'm planning to do some content this year to teach, but mostly I'm over on Instagram.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone. Make sure you guys subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
That concludes this episode of the Off Axis podcast. If you guys found value in this, please consider sharing with your friends. Also, subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, everyone.